Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining another episode of Primary Market Chatter. इसमें हम क्या करते हैं कि जो कंपनीज के आईपीओ आने वाले हैं उनका रिव्यू करते हैं एंड जस्ट टॉक अबाउट देम फ्रॉम अ फंडामेंटल पर्सपेक्टिव. That how are we finding the companies? What are the good points in the companies? What are the bad points in the companies? And just speak about them between amongst four of us. So if someone's hearing us for the first time, uh, this is the format. Just want to reiterate that we are not SEBI registered research analysts. So any advice that we give, anything that we give should not be considered as a advice. Please do your own due diligence. Any apply, don't apply, don't do it simply because we are saying so. It's more of a discussion around what do we feel about the company. You feel free to do your own due diligence, talk to your financial advisor and do something which you feel is the best and do not look at GMPs. Uh, because again, a lot has been happening on, especially on the Hyundai side. Uh, so do not go simply by GMPs. Definitely read the DRHPs of the companies, listen to promoters, and we also kind of do that. But yeah, just to set it up, what we are planning to do is, and in fact, this is something which I owe an apology to some people as well, because we had said that हम 8 कंपनीज का रिव्यू एक साथ करेंगे 1 घंटे में. और मैंने रिव्यू भी डाला, पोल भी डाला था कि क्या हम 4 कंपनीज का करें या फिर हम 8 कंपनीज का करें. एंड अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल हैड सेड कि आप 8 कंपनी एक साथ करें. दैट वाज द प्लान, बट देन Tanmay is traveling today and he would have a slightly patchy network. So I thought it would be better if we do Wari when he has proper network so that it's helpful for all of us to listen to that. So sorry about changing it last minute. So that's why what we are planning to do is we'll do 4 today and 4 tomorrow. That way हम दोनों ही इश्यूज पे कंपैरेटिवली काफी अच्छा टाइम दे पाएंगे एंड अपने रिव्यूज बता पाएंगे एंड एवरीवन वुड बी एबल टू फॉलो एज वेल. So ideally we would have skipped it to tomorrow, but it's just that Freshara is closing tomorrow, so it's important that we do our review and talk about what we are planning to do with respect to that issue in today's chatter. But having said that, let me set up the agenda for the day, how we are planning to schedule this space. So we'll be talking about 4 companies, as I said. We'll be first starting with a main board issue, which is Deepak Builders. एक बार Deepak Builders की बात करेंगे और उसके बाद जो 3 SME issues की हम आज बात करने वाले हैं, वो है Freshara, Premium Plast और Danish Power. फ्रेशेरा जो है वो 21 तारीख को बंद हो रहा है, यानी कि कल बंद हो रहा है. सो इट्स वन ऑफ द मोस्ट अर्जेंट इश्यूज विच यू शुड वांट टू हियर. देन वील टॉक अबाउट प्रीमियम प्लास्ट विच इज एंडिंग ऑन 23rd, आई स्टार्टिंग टुमारो. एंड देन दानिश पावर की बात करेंगे जो 24 को बंद हो रहा है. दानिश पावर के साथ 2 और इशू है जो 24 को बंद हो रहे हैं एसएमई साइड पे, बट उनके बारे में कल बात करेंगे. So it's going to be a very good issue simply because there is one main board which has a lot of interest, Deepak Builders, and then दो SME जो हैं, लक्ष्य पावर टेक, वो भी काफी, सॉरी लक्ष्य बोल रहा हूँ, फ्रेशेरा का भी काफी अच्छा रिस्पॉन्स आने की उम्मीद है. एंड देन दानिश पावर इज ऑल्सो द बिगेस्ट एसएमई टिल डेट in terms of the race. So with that, just want to highlight that if you guys have any questions, I do not see any comments in the chat box. If you have any questions, please feel free to chat, put them in the chat box. We will take questions as well. I see one comment कि आज वारी के बिना space would be boring. I understand, but tomorrow's space would be as much interesting. What we will also plan to do is towards the end, we'll talk about Hyundai and everything that has been happening with Hyundai. So we'll give a very quick scoop of what we feel again, what Hyundai is doing. And then there are a few good main boards and SMEs today as well. So it should be fun. With that, maybe one last pointer from my end. I have also pinned the YouTube channel. अगर आपने कोई space मिस कर दिया हो या फिर आपको लग रहा है कि नेक्स्ट टाइम कैसे फॉलो होगा बिकॉज इनका टाइम इतना चेंज होता रहता है, we put all of them the next day itself, all of our spaces on YouTube. So feel free to kind of join the YouTube channel as well and make sure to subscribe to it because I'll put this video there as well tomorrow. Having said that, let me start with दीपक. सो दीपक बिल्डर्स एंड इंजीनियर्स करके एक कंपनी है जिसका आईपीओ आ रहा है. कंपनी का आईपीओ कल खुल रहा है इनफैक्ट और 23 तारीख को बंद हो रहा है. 260 करोड़ का आईपीओ, सो कंपेरेटिवली वेरी स्मॉल आईपीओ जिसमें अराउंड 42 सीआर का ओएफएस भी है, ऑफर फॉर सेल भी. और कंपनी जो है वो कंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनी है, सिविल स्ट्रक्चरल एमईपी सब कुछ बनाती है. सो मे बी यश, डू यू वांट टू गो अहेड एंड कवर दीपक बिल्डर्स एंड इंजीनियर्स?
Yes, sure, Manish. So Deepak Builders, the company is into integrated engineering and construction, which focuses on the execution and construction of various types of buildings, infrastructure projects. Their key services includes construction projects, which are into administrative and institutional buildings, medical colleges, industrial buildings, stadiums, sport complexes. Then the other one is infrastructure projects, where they work with these railway projects, road projects, railway station projects. They also do work like building flyovers, etc., etc. Then on services part, they do EPC for various construction and infrastructure projects. They also handle mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, fire systems, IT infrastructure, HVAC systems, these type of systems. They have active presence in 4 Indian states, mainly into Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, Uttarakhand, and 2 UTs, Chandigarh and Delhi. This business was acquired. This business was acquired at around, I think, few years back, around 2017, 2018. So since acquisition of this by the another firm, they have completed 17 prestigious projects, which includes Jang-e-Azadi Memorial, Karuna Sagar Maharishi Valmiki Tirth Asthan. Then there is super specialty block at Government Medical College. So mainly their business in FY24 came from 30% from building hospital and medical colleges, then close to 5% from building industrial buildings, then 37% from railway projects. In 2022, there was almost nil contribution from railway projects, but from last 2 years, there has been consistent 33-34% contribution from the railway projects, like building railway stations, etc., etc. In terms of the concentration from different cities, major contribution is from Haryana, which is almost 40% in 24. 33% come from Punjab. And if I talk about their clients, they have very good clients base like AIMS Delhi, PGMIR, Chandigarh, National Project Construction Corporation, Indian Oil Corporation, Central Public Works Department, which is CPWD. So very good client base. Also, one very interesting thing which I noticed in this company is they have very solid backing with their directors. So a few of them are Indradev Singh, which has served Punjab National Bank for almost 4 decades and has a very vast experience in field of banking and finance. He also has experience of 21 years in top 12 management from which covers international banking, forex dealing, etc., etc. Also, he was managing director of PNB Glitz, which is a subsidiary of Punjab National Bank, for almost 3 years. Then the another interesting one is Kashish Mittal, who is an engineer and has a degree of BTech Computer Science from IIT Delhi. Then he qualified for the UPSC exam on his first attempt. He was the youngest person in that country to be selected at IAS officer at that time. So he has served at various leadership positions also, like DC Taiwan, ADC, SDM Chandigarh, PS2 Honorable State of External Affairs, and Honorable Vice Chairman, Niti Aayog and Government of India. The another one is Vinod Kumar Kathuria, which holds MCom from the University of Delhi and has served Punjab National Banks for 35 years. He also has experience in treasury credit tenure at PNB. So why I'm focusing more on these things, because generally building and like these construction companies majority of growth comes from how they get orders. So board of directors to me looks very impressive and looks like they have very good connections in government as well as they won't have any problem financing any future growth. They already have very solid background from PNB, etc. So working capital ka debt ka needs पूरा हो जाएगा even if their equity is up. In terms of financial, what raises concerns to me is their net profit margin. It has almost gone up from 4.9% in FY23 to 11.69%, which to me looks like non-sustainable, बिकॉज इतना तो मार्जिन यूजुअली नहीं होता है, एंड मोस्टली कंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनीज में एक रिस्क ये भी होता है कि मोस्ट ऑफ द डील्स हैपन्स इन कैश। तो इनका रेवेन्यू ग्रोथ तो ज्यादा नहीं हुआ था, बट ड्यू टू मार्जिन एक्सपेंशन इतना ज्यादा ग्रोथ दिख रहा है इन टर्म्स ऑफ प्रॉफिट। बाकी जो रेशियोज हैं, दैट इज करंटली फाइन। डेट टू इक्विटी इज ओके, करंट रेशियो इज फाइन, एसेट टर्नओवर इज आल्सो फाइन। मतलब डेट टू इक्विटी इज क्लोज टू 1, करंट रेशियो इज 1.5, कंसिस्टेंट अक्रॉस लास्ट 3 years, क्विक रेशियो इज आल्सो फाइन। तो कुछ घपलेबाजी नहीं लग रहा है। द ओनली थिंग टू मी इज द नेट प्रॉफिट मार्जिन्स, जो कि वो सस्टेन करेंगे नहीं करेंगे, विल हैव टू सी। एंड ऑल्सो दिस इशू इज क्लैशिंग विद वारी। तो आई डोंट थिंक दैट इसको हमें वारी के ऊपर चूज करना चाहिए। सब लोगों को वारी पे ही फोकस करना चाहिए फॉर मी तो। प्लस जो उनका एलएम है, फेडेक्स सिक्योरिटीज, उनका अच्छा हिस्ट्री नहीं रहा है विद आईपीओस। रिसेंटली लिस्टेड HVAX टेक्नोलॉजीज हैज परफॉर्म्ड वेरी वेल। आई थिंक it has performed very well from at what price it listed. Continuous series of upper circuit देखने को मिले उसमें, I think only because of the business which was quite priced as per me, but not sure the forces that are running that script.
थैंक्स सो मच यश। थैंक यू फॉर कवरिंग दीपक बिल्डर्स। मेरा भी लगभग सिमिलर व्यू था जब मैंने देखा कि जो मार्जिन्स हैं वो इन द लास्ट ईयर है इंक्रीज सडनली। लाइक जैसे आप इनका देखोगे, FY22 में 4.87% मार्जिन था, पैट मार्जिन। FY23 में 4.94% पैट मार्जिन था, पर FY24 में आते ही वो 12% हो गया, 11.81%। एंड Q1 में भी इट हैज इंक्रीज इवन फर्दर टू 13.5%. So it seems that the margins have increased a bit too much for my liking. Again, I haven't. This is a very shallow read. I should read on why the margins have increased so much. But yeah, since margins have increased, and even if you considered the annualized PE, FY25 PE or FY24 PE earnings, it's at like 16 PE. So it's a cheap issue if you consider कि वो जो margins हैं वो sustain होंगे. But it's just that unfortunately or fortunately there's Wari coming along with it, which is a huge size issue. So ये 260 करोड़ के issue में ना allotment chances would probably be worse off or equal to at best compared to Wari, क्योंकि इसका size ही इतना छोटा है। तो इसलिए it doesn't make sense to kind of even compare between the two, and it makes sense to kind of ignore this one. But even if I were to consider this, then there is the whole problem of FedEx के issues I am slightly wary on. And also I feel grey minas की काफी हवा चल रही थी बीच में कि इसमें politician का पैसा है or something like that. Again, I have no idea. But
हाँ, क्योंकि इसका ये सीएम से अच्छा कनेक्शन है, प्लस इनको कुछ साल पहले बेस्ट बिजनेसमैन का अवार्ड भी दिया था सीएम ने।
which CM?
आई थिंक 2012 का था, प्रकाश
As
सिंह।
in which state?
मतलब
Which state?
पंजाब।
Punjab itself. Okay.
तो इनका कनेक्शंस तो है पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज में, बट वही है कि कंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनी है, रियल एस्टेट कंपनी है, काइंड ऑफ रियल एस्टेट। तो 13-14 का पी भी आई थिंक मैक्स P20 का मिलना चाहिए ऐसे बिजनेसेस को, बिकॉज ऑफ कैश में बहुत ज्यादा डीलिंग रहता है। बट लेट्स सी।
Yep.
हेलो,
And
मेरा आवाज आ रहा है क्या?
yes.
हाँ, एक्चुअली मैं एक्चुअली ट्रैवल कर रहा हूँ, मेरा शायद कनेक्शन अंदर अंदर कट जाएगा, बट आई हैड सम थिंग्स टू ऐड कि मैं इनका रेवेन्यू ब्रेकअप देख रहा था। तो इनका 25% रेवेन्यू आता है तुम्हारा कंस्ट्रक्शन मटेरियल्स लाइक स्टील हो गया, रेडी मिक्स
सेल ऑफ
कंक्रीट हो गया,
प्रोडक्ट्स।
सैंड हो गया। तो मतलब वहाँ उस साइड पे एबिटा मार्जिन 5-6% बनाना भी बड़ी चीज होती है। 12% था FY22-23 और अचानक आईपीओ से पहले 23% हो जाता है, और Q1 ऑफ दिस ईयर में तो सीधा 30% हो जाता है। और मतलब मैं एक चीज ना देखूं,
Tanmay, you are breaking up for me. Rohit, Yash, is it for you as well?
एक तो ये
Definitely breaking up.
Tanmay, maybe I can cover this point. What you want to say is कि इनका जो पैट मार्जिन है जो वो प्री आईपीओ बहुत सडनली इंक्रीज हो गया है, स्पेशली कंसिडरिंग कि 1/4 of their quarter, one quarter of their sales is from sale of steel and other प्रोडक्ट्स, जिसमें EBITDA मार्जिन लेवल 5-6% होता है, वहां पे ये 30% पहुंच गया. सो अगेन डेफिनेटली biggest query remains that the margins are slightly unsustainable. At least on paper look unsustainable. Plus the anchor book जो इसकी आई थी, that also didn't give a lot of confidence.
सर अभी आ रहा है मेरा आवाज?
हाँ जी.
हाँ, तो और प्रमोटर के अगेंस्ट पेंडिंग लिटिगेशन भी चल रही है और अभी प्रेस्टिजियस प्रोजेक्ट भी इन्होंने किया है, तो उसी के ऊपर एक लिटिगेशन भी चल रहा है कंपनी के अगेंस्ट. और मैं एक चीज ऐड कर दूं कि इसका एलएम फेडेक्स सिक्योरिटीज है. इससे पहले इनका लास्ट मेनबोर्ड आईपीओ था मुक्का प्रोटीन, सबको याद होगा. उसका भी मार्जिन के टाइम पे मैंने सेम चीज बोला था कि ये मार्जिन अचानक कैसे बढ़ जाता है, और उसका जो अगला क्वार्टरली रिजल्ट आया पोस्ट आईपीओ, उसमें मार्जिन 70% घट गए थे. और उसके नेक्स्ट क्वार्टर जो एग्जिस्टिंग मार्जिन बने थे उससे घट गए थे. आप वेरीफाई कर सकते हो ये चीज. और मतलब ठीक है. और ऑर्डर बुक भी इनका 1450 करोड़ से 1150 करोड़ आ गया है. और इनका जो आरएमसी वगैरह वो प्रपोर्शनल टू द रेवेन्यू अचानक आईपीओ से पहले बढ़ जाता है, तो इससे एबिटा मार्जिन नीचे आ जाए तो एक्चुअली डबल हो गया. तो मतलब मुझे थोड़ी चीज समझी नहीं इसकी. एंड लिटिगेशन है इसके अगेंस्ट, बट यस बोर्ड ऑफ डायरेक्टर्स इंप्रेसिव है. पॉलिटिकल कनेक्शन से पी भी ठीक है, 15-16 का है, चल जाएगा इशू. बट यस लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए मैं बिल्कुल रेकमेंड नहीं करूंगा इसको.
Thanks, Tanmay. Thanks for your review. As I was saying, anchor book is also a very SME kind of anchor book. No big names. Plus, it's a small issue if you think about it. It's a 260 CR issue, so didn't expect anything better. इसमें एक OFS भी है, 43 CR promoter cash out कर रहे हैं, which is okay. But it's just that doesn't seem like a great business in the long term. If you are applying, may apply for some very, very minuscule listing gains.
आई विल ऐड वन मोर थिंग सर, कि जब इसका डीआरएसए फाइल हुआ था ना, इट वाज एक्सपेक्टेड कि इसका साइज आएगा 225 करोड़, और आईपीओ से जस्ट पहले अचानक वो 260 करोड़ का हो जाता है. और जो पैट एक्सपेक्टेशन थी वो भी अचानक पिछले साल का जो पैट बता रहे थे अचानक बढ़ जाता है. तो मतलब कुछ चीजें फिगर आउट की जा सकती है इसमें.
Yep. The less the said, the better. But yeah, with that we have covered Deepak Builders and Engineers. मैंने ज्यादा हाइप बनाया था कि अच्छी कंपनी है यार, फिर हमने रिव्यू तो बिल्कुल अच्छा नहीं किया इसका comparatively. But again, let's see if you want to apply for listing gains and get out on the day of listing. I think it would list at least okay, but long term not very positive on this issue. Rohit, Yash, you guys have anything to add on Deepak Builders, or we can move forward to the next issue?
Just a very small point. Just last week we covered this company Garuda Constructions, again in a somewhat similar space. Again, very average fundamentals, but somehow that company listed at, I think 5-7% positive. And the same day, every flipper, I think in India bought it and dumped it on the same day, took the price up by another 10-12%, brought it back down. But somehow the stock is still trading just a little above the IPO price. So I don't know, maybe the same thing will happen. Again, a similar small size issue. But yeah, I think given the plethora of options, it's not worth, it's not worth it.
Yeah. One thing compared to Garuda, I feel it's a fundamentally better issue than Garuda. Like Garuda was all over the place. This is at least better fundamentally than Garuda. So direct Garuda's a comparison would probably be too harsh for Deepak at least.
Yeah. No, I mean, if Garuda managed to list well and list positively, it just feels like this also probably will.
Let's see. Again, will depend on क्या probability है, do you have extra cash, but would again say that if you have to choose, this would be very low in the priority. There would definitely be Wari, and there would be a few good SMEs as well, which will kind of top this one. With that, maybe we'll move forward to the next issue. Next issue की बात करते हैं. Before that, just want to highlight, if you have any questions with respect to Deepak or any observations, please feel free to post them in the chat box. We'll definitely read them as well. एक क्वेश्चन ये कि if we have funds, can we also apply for Deepak? I think we have covered that as well. I think it should list positive, but again, it's just playing with fire. And then the second thing is Deepak's IPO meet was a joke in itself. Unfortunately, I didn't see the video or anything like that yet, so can't really comment on that. But with having said that, let's move to the SME. The next SME we are going to talk about is the biggest SME IPO raised in India till date, Danish Power Limited. It's a 197 CR IPO. इससे पहले KP Green था, which was like 190 CR if I'm not wrong. Kind of beats that, and it's a Heme Securities IPO. Big LM, big name, and big company, transformer, T&D segment में, transformer and distribution segment में, which is a very hot segment right now. And huge size, 180, 198, almost 200 CR IPO, all fresh issue. So definitely interesting to see how this company does. But again, at a very high level, the company manufactures various types of transformers like inverter duty transformers, etc. Most of those transformers are the lower kVA transformers, but let's hear a proper review about it from Rohit. Rohit, do you want to go ahead and cover Danish Power?
Thanks, Manish. Yes, so I think you've set it up. I'll try to do my best. It's a very, very interesting issue. So just to set the context, it is, as Manish said, a 197 crore fundraise, the biggest ever. Of this, about 35 crore is for capex, 85 crore is working capital, and 20 crore is for they have very few, about 20 odd crore of loans, most of which they'll repay with this. Rest is for general purposes. And this is in the super hot transformer sector. There are multiple listed companies in the segment that have given extraordinary returns in the last 3-4 years, but I'll come to the specifics with respect to the segment and peers and stuff a little later in the review. So Danish Power itself is a very well established, very well certified company. It's been around since 1985. They're in the business, and they're based in Jaipur. They're engaged in this business of manufacturing different types of transformers, across power distribution, as well as a very specific type of transformer called an inverter duty transformer, which is used in renewable power. I'll come a little bit more into depth of what is an inverter duty transformer. Apart from the whole transformer business, they also manufacture control relay panels and the automation around it. That's a very small part of the business. I'll not spend too much time there. Customers of theirs, in the top customers, people like Tata Power, Wari itself, ABB India, they have a very, very solid customer base. Before I get into more details on the business, I'll just explain very quickly the transformer value chain, just so people kind of understand where this company sits. But typically when power is generated, let's say from a big thermal plant or any renewable source, it needs to ultimately be transported to that final point of consumption, which might be in our house, it might be in some industry. So a transformer, when electricity is produced, it is produced at a very low voltage. It needs to be consumed also typically at a low voltage, but it cannot be transmitted at a low voltage. It always has to be transmitted at a high voltage. And that is for efficiency reasons. So that's where transformers come in, to sort of step up that voltage and then step it back down at its end point of consumption. Now, there are different types of transformers. There are very large transformers needed, with very, very high rating, 400 kV, 765 kV. You may have heard these terms. These are used to, for this sort of long range sort of transmission. And then the reverse is then done to step it down. But finally, if you have to bring it to use in somebody's house, we hardly use like 240 volts, 120 volts, whatever, very small this thing. So that at that end, there is either a substation or some kind of distribution transformer that is used to bring it to this level. Apart from this, when you look at renewables specifically, the kind of power that is produced is different. Normally, you make AC power when you use a thermal power plant, for example. But in case of something like solar, the power is not AC, it's actually DC, which is where this term of inverter transformer or inverter duty transformer comes in, because you convert that power from DC to AC. And so renewable energy, we all know that there's a huge renewable boom. There's a lot more renewable power coming in. For this segment, you need a different kind of transformer, which is what this company actually focuses on most, which is this class of transformer called inverter duty transformers. It's also important to know that in renewables, power is not constantly produced, right? The sun is not always shining, wind is not always blowing. And so there is also a lot of variation in the actual voltage and the actual power, which is what these inverter duty transformers are good at managing. Now, for Danish, coming back to Danish, I hope this context is helpful. Coming back to Danish, 70% of their revenue just comes from this segment alone, this IDT segment. 20% of revenue comes from the regular power and distribution, mostly distribution, which is generally the low voltage, sort of the smaller sort of transformers. And 10% of business comes from panels. Today, Danish has about a 4,700 MVA capacity, which is at about 82% utilization. Generally, utilization here can be stretched to close to 90 to 100% also. I know Shilchar is the closest in terms of capability. They also primarily make IDTs, which are these inverted duty transformers. Shilchar operates at 100%, like flat 100%. So I do see that there is some upside from this 82 to at least 90, 95%. But for this entire year, you can more or less assume that at max, they have another 10, 15%, growth left. They are, of course, raising funds for CapEx, but that will only come in for next year. The funds are being raised to increase this capacity from 4,700 to 8,000 MVA. So there's about 70-75% increase in capacity that we'll see from next year. One point here is that panel biz, which is very small, that is only at 10% utilization. So there is room to grow on that side of the business. But again, I don't know how the market will really value that piece, because I think ultimately you're viewing this as a transformer company. They've had very, very good numbers. They did almost 330 crore in revenue, a little over 330 crore in revenue in FY24, which was a 75% year-on-year growth. The margins are excellent, almost 11.5% PAT. They've also submitted numbers for Q1. This tends to be a slightly seasonal base. Q1 will be less than Q2, less than Q3, less than Q4. So I'm not looking too much into the Q1 numbers, but you can see the margins have further improved. If you just take the standalone business, it's almost gone to 14%. But I feel that they should be able to maintain a 12.5% kind of margin, for the entire year. They have a decent order book of about 380 crore, of which, about, I think, 290 crore is from transformers. Another 90 crore is for panels. While I mentioned that, transformers, there's less-ish scope for growth. Panels can still drive numbers in FY25. And as per their own internal calculations, I think they're expecting about 410 crore in revenue this year, which can generate 50 crore PAT or so in FY25, because we'll see if they can deliver. Their balance sheet is also excellent. That's one thing I've seen with all of these transformer companies. There's so much tailwind. There's so much, under supply and over demand that everyone is able to just improve their balance sheet significantly. The receivables keeps falling down as a percentage of sale. They have excellent cash flows. So this company is also doing more of the same. So I think that's, again, a very good thing. It's part of the sector, I would say, but it's good that this company is also doing the same. Coming to the peers and comparables, which is where I think I try to find, where the value is for this business. This is a very competitive space, but there is so much demand. At a global level, there is huge demand with this whole AI boom, with EV boom, data centers. So power is something that I think even Elon Musk recently said something that AI is going to just consume all the power in FY25 or in like 2025 itself, all the power that is being produced now. And in India also, I've seen this huge energy push from the government. So this sector is in a huge uptrend. And of course, the market is also valuing it. But it has to be, you have to note that there are huge players in the overall transformer space. There are a bunch of companies that do that along with a whole bunch of things, ABB, Hitachi, Schneider. I mean, there's so many of these large, mid-cap, large-cap companies. I'm not even going to consider them because for them, transformers is one part of the business. If we just look at the small and micro-cap side, we have a few different players. So I'll just try to quickly cover them and what they do versus what Danish does. So probably the one other small, SME is Supreme Power, which actually came listed very well, had a lot of hype, ran up, and then it came back down. They actually are probably the weakest of the businesses relatively in terms of the product mix. They mainly do distribution transformers. They are now getting into some of these other segments. They're also going to, I think, almost triple their capacity, more than triple their capacity. So, going forward, their numbers should be good, but they also have like amongst the lowest realization, of all the players that I've seen, that is the revenue per MBA. So Supreme itself trades at around a 40p, but that's like in terms of product capability, I would probably put that the lowest. Somebody like an Indotech, which has a mix of distribution and power capabilities, but majority still that sort of lowish distribution, power kind of distribution transformer kind of segment. Shilchar is the one that I felt is the closest. They mainly do the same product that Danish also does, which is IDTs, which is renewable focused transformer. But the main thing here with Shilchar is they have a huge moat because of exports. They export to, Europe, North America, Middle East. They're very high quality exports and their margins are incredible. So I don't think it is fair to value this the same, but in terms of product mix, this is the closest. There are a couple of slightly bigger ones, Voltamp and Trill. Both are doing really well. They do much larger, power transformer capability. They're also bigger 10,000 crore plus market cap company. So I'll not get into too much detail here. But of the three between Supreme, Indotech, Silchar, at least in terms of capability, I felt it was closest to Silchar minus the export bit. I also believe that the promoters are very, very good quality. I've heard a couple of interviews of them. They're very experienced. They know the space well. But I'm hoping that there's a proper IPO roadshow that will get published in the next day or so we get more details. This entire segment trades at 40 to 60p. You can say that they probably trade at 30 to 40 FY25p. At 19p, this company is coming at, it's an absolute no-brainer. You must apply. It will probably subscribe 250 times. So, if Yash and I have the right amount of money, you can probably get an allotment as well, for sure. I feel that up to 30p, one can consider this company as pretty cheap, even on listing. But you have to just, overlay the fact that FY25 will be somewhat muted due to this lack of or less visibility on capacity. If there is more detail on exactly the capacity, what kind of capacity utilization they can do in FY25, there is some visibility to growth, then that 30p can definitely stretch up more. I am expecting an incredible anchor book. We'll find out, I guess, tomorrow. I am not 100% convinced this is a buy if it lists at 2x. But if it can list somewhere in that 50% range, I personally think I will be standing in line. But yeah, overall company looks good. Sector is good. Slightly unique play within this because of the focus on the renewable piece. Just the capacity thing is the only thing that means that you might have to wait a little bit, but otherwise looks like a really decent long-term bet as well.
Thanks, Rohit. Just want to check, Yash, are you still on? I can't see you. Rohit, can you see Yash?
No, I can't see him.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear him though.
Yes, we can hear you, yeah. So just be around, ठीक है, hang around, ठीक है. But having said that, मेरा पहला question तो रोहित सबसे बड़ा यही है, is it Danish or is it Danish? Because you were saying that the whole thing is Danish. तो पहले तो ये
Well, it's Danish to me, but it's probably Danish. Actually, the thing is the promoter's name is Dinesh. So I don't know why it became, I thought it was maybe to do with his name and some,
we have a solution for this. We have a solution for this. अगर हमारा IPO लगा तो Danish, अगर नहीं लगा तो Danish.
But yeah, second thing which I would want to say to everyone again, बहुत बड़ी साइज का SME IPO है, 200 करोड़ का SME IPO है. Considering that I apply in retail, it should have a very good retail probability as well, because retail में इतने लोग apply करते नहीं है SME में, because lot size बड़ा होता है. So I don't think it will go beyond 60x. अब आप बोलोगे 60x तो बहुत ज्यादा है, but it is much better than 400x, 500x which we see in retail, and it will probably have very similar returns to some of those 400, 500x subscribed SME IPOs. So definitely keep this in mind कि आपको Danish apply करना है और allotment लेना है, especially in retail category. You can go heavy on allotment, heavy on subscription in this one. With that, maybe Rohit, a couple of questions which I had from my side. As you said, that this probably is a very close comparable to Supreme Power, but like from my understanding, this is a slightly unique play. Like अभी तक जो ट्रांसफॉर्मर में कंपनीज आ रही थी, विलास हो गई और JB हो गई, those were slightly lower in the value chain. Like they were making the components which go into a transformer, the CRGO core roles, while this actually makes the transformer. Is that read correct? And because of which, should it get any premium over JB and Vilas is what my question is. I know there's no right answer, but what do you think?
Yeah, so I do think this will get a premium over at least JB. Now, Vilas trades at an even higher premium, I think, only because of the sheer size of capex that they have commissioned. I think most players, if you see, don't set up such large capex very early, because actually capex also tends to be a little. It also tends to be a little inefficient, right? You are also incurring the cost of operating that extra capex at lower utilization. But whatever, Vilas is sort of playing that game, and it is getting a premium valuation. So I think Vilas looks a little bit of a one-off. But yeah, I think it will get more than a JB. I think, see, with these guys, it's very dangerous to value them or this kind of sector on a trailing multiple. Everyone sits in this 42, 50, 55 sort of P. But I think a lot of them are actually trading at 20 to 25 FY26 multiples. And I think wherever you get comfort on that kind of a multiple, that kind of a growth based on the capacity and the capacity that they say that they are launching, and generally in 1.5 to 2 years, most of these, what at least I have seen is in a upcycle like this, in 1.5 to 2 years, the capacity will get fully utilized. As long as there is demand, these guys are very quick at ramping up their own operations to utilize the capacity fully. So you can probably do your own math on where you think their numbers will be in FY26 and give it a valuation based on that. Because FY25 is not going to be, like, there's not going to be big growth, but FY26 can be excellent because they can almost double, right? They can do maybe at least 60-70% sort of growth in the next year. For most of these guys, at least currently, demand is not a problem. Given the focus is on renewables, again, I don't see demand being a problem for them. They seem to be well established. They seem to have the right network. So most of you guys don't take an order book because they cannot deliver it. It's not because they don't have access to the order book. It's just that there is no point in taking the order book, sitting on it and not delivering it for 2 years. So they will kind of in parallel build up their order book. So in this segment, just make a calculated guess on where you think FY26 sort of PE will be. Look at how peers trade at that level. But yeah, I feel it's kind of safe to say that somewhere between 50-60%, though it will definitely can give 80-90% also. And that's where I start getting a little tentative. The moment it crosses 40p, then it is more going to depend on initial momentum, how the buying comes, what the quality of investors who come in at that point in time to sort of take it up, as opposed to definitively saying that there is value on the table. I think that's how I would look at it.
Yep. Plus, especially after Sahasra, where premium was like at 60%, but it listed at 90 and then went up. Want to highlight that those two are very different segments and those two get different PE. Rohit, would that be right?
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this ESM space gets squarely a 60 to 80 PE, whereas transformers, even if you go trailing PE, does not go beyond like 50, 55 PE probably, somewhere in the 40. Because it is not at the end of the day, transformers is massively cyclical business. This cycle has played out before 20 years ago in this 2004 to 2008 period. There are some reports on this, but this sort of same cycle played out back then. These companies did extremely well. Then, of course, the recession happened at that time and everything sort of went for a toss. Now, we know that there is visibility to the segment booming, at least for the next 5 years. So I don't think we're worried about a down cycle outside of a black swan event. But you have to remember that it is still sort of pseudo commodity cyclical business. So it's never going to get an 80-90 multiple because there's a lot of technology and, it's like visibility for the next 20 years of, the segment existing, unlike the electronic segment. So that's why these two will not trade at the same multiple. So don't expect this to go up to like 60, 70, 80p. It doesn't make any sense.
Got it. And it's coming at 18p, right? So at least
19.5, I think. I think 19 point something.
19.5p. So at least at IPO price, it's a slam dunk of plan. As soon as it becomes 90%, that's when you start having some concern.
Exactly. I still feel even after that, it probably will do a little bit, but not a lot.
Got it. So that is what our review of Danish was. Then मैं Danish ही बोलूँगा. That is what our review of Danish Power was. Now that we have covered this, maybe we can move forward to the next issue. एक और बहुत ही अच्छा इशू आ रहा है, Freshara करके कंपनी का नाम है जिसकी बात करने वाले हैं नेक्स्ट हम. ये भी SME इशू है. बिफोर दैट आई जस्ट वांट टू से दैट इफ यू हैव मिस्ड एनी ऑफ द कंपनीज, अगर आपने बीच में ज्वाइन किया है तो ऊपर मैंने लिंक पिन कर रखा है. उस लिंक पे हम ये स्पेस जो है इसकी रिकॉर्डिंग कल सुबह तक डाल देंगे, सो आप उसको भी सुन सकते हैं एंड उसके बेसिस पे अपना डिसीजन ले सकते हैं. हमने अभी तक दानिश पावर की बात कर ली है और दीपक बिल्डर्स की बात कर ली है. अब हम नेक्स्ट जो इशू बात करने वाले हैं वो अराउंड 75 CR का इशू है. बड़ा इशू है SME. फ्रेशेरा एग्रो एक्सपोर्ट्स करके कंपनी है जो पिकल्स बनाती है. वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग इशू. इट इज नॉट योर रेगुलर एग्रो कमोडिटी इशू. डोंट थिंक ऑफ इट एज एग्रो कमोडिटी. इट्स अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग कंपनी. आई वॉज वेरी I really like the company when I had seen it on first instance. But as I said, 75 CR का issue है, GYR Capital का issue है. GYR Capital seem to always leave some value on the table for IPO investors, so that's a good thing. And जैसा मैंने बताया कंपनी पिकल बनाती है, so maybe Yash, over to you. Do you want to go ahead and talk about Freshara pickles?
Yeah, sure. So I'll quickly summarize what the business they do. So the company is into the business of picking of jerkins, which is little bit smaller to what cucumbers is. Their target market mainly are into this McD's, Radisson, etc., and convenience stores, for example, Kisan and Biba. So they solely do bulk manufacturing and contract manufacturing. It is more of a B2B kind of business. Also, 100% of their products are exported to the other countries. So they are engaged in contract manufacturing with the help of farmers in Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu. So these are the three main states from where these jerkins are exported. They also boast a network of 4,500 farmers which are associated with them and extensively working with them to increase their products. Also, the company is the third largest in the world in the business of jerkins, and they are raising money to set up a new plant. When the new plant will be set up by December this year. So, whenever it is in place, they are looking to go into more lucrative margin sector and expand their capabilities as well. So what they'll try to do is, so for example, like Coca-Cola shares the recipe with the contract manufacturer and the bottler. So with the upcoming facility of Freshara, they are looking to target this niche segment with their new capacity, which will enjoy long-term contracts plus a good margin profile on their products. Capacity wise, they are more or less running capacity at a very good percentage from last 3 years, FY 22, 23, 24, mostly into the range of 70%, 75%. And in September 24, they have run the capacity at 85%. So makes more sense कि ऐसे एक साल capacity run करके नहीं आ रहा है, capacity अच्छे से utilize करके आ रहा है. Also, there are few concerns जो कि था इनके बैलेंस शीट पे, विच मैनेजमेंट आंसर्ड वेरी वेल, कि एक तो था हाई ट्रेड रिसीवर्स, जिसका कंपनी ने आंसर दिया कि उन्होंने 100 करोड़ का सेल Q4 में किया है, विच इज द रीजन फॉर देयर आउटस्टैंडिंग सेल एज ऑफ 31st मार्च. एंड उन्होंने गाइड भी किया है कि जो 70% एंड 80% तक का जो इसका सेल है वो ऑलमोस्ट उन्होंने रियलाइज कर दिया है. देन जो दूसरा पॉइंट था इनका था विच वॉज huge amount of current liabilities, उसका उन्होंने आंसर किया है कि at a outstanding borrowing of close to 1,010 crores, they're only paying interest of 3.77 crores, which makes sense. So future outlook तो यही है कि कंपनी एक्सपेंशन करेगी, दिसंबर से न्यू प्रोडक्ट लॉन्च, न्यू कैपेसिटी लाइव हो जाना चाहिए. आई थिंक दिस ईयर दे हैव गिवन अ गाइडेंस ऑफ 250 करोड़ टॉप लाइन, सो नॉट मच ग्रोथ दिस ईयर, 20% का ग्रोथ है बिजनेस वाइज प्लस. लेकिन जो ये इशू है वो बहुत अच्छे से दे हैव प्राइस्ड, बहुत कुछ टेबल पे छोड़ा है फॉर देयर इन्वेस्टर्स, सो विच इज मेकिंग इट वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग. एंड नेक्स्ट ईयर ऑलमोस्ट 100% प्लस का ग्रोथ देखने को मिल सकता है हमें. तो फॉर लॉन्ग टर्म जो पार्क करना चाहते हैं, दिस इज डेफिनेटली अप्लाई गिवन वेरी लो प्राइस प्लस कैपेसिटी एक्सपेंशन विल कम वेरी क्विकली इनटू पिक्चर. अब H1 तो ऑलरेडी ओवर हो चुका है एंड काफी कम टाइम बचा है. So I think this will move the price towards the convergence till March.
Got it. Thanks, Yash. I can't see you, but I'm assuming you are there and you're speaking because I could hear you. Thank you so much for your review. Again, मेरे को भी similar लगा था. Company काफी interesting है क्योंकि most of the pickle or like gherkin which I heard for the first time, I don't think at least I've intentionally eaten. But that is sold to exports to other countries almost all over the world, and it's something which is which is a regular ingredient and काफी लोग खाते हैं उसको. तो उस हिसाब से the company is in exports, and exports में margins थोड़े से better होते हैं, and like there is a lot of visibility into revenue, so because of which it becomes a very good company and probably one of its kind in the segment. And the valuation at which it is coming at a IPO, it seemed like it would be a good company. I was hoping कि इसको market doesn't price in everything in GMP and it's available to buy at a decent price even after listing, but at least at the current GMP, the current grey market premium is like 90%, if I was not wrong. It was all over the place. It was already at 90%. So at that price, it becomes slightly difficult. Again, very similar review to Danish, where because it's coming at like, if I'm not wrong, it was coming at a PE of like 12 and a half. So basis that, like even if it opens at 90%, then it start going into 23, 24, which is very difficult. I feel for end of the day, it's a agree product business. But yeah, that is what my review was. Anchor book मैंने इसकी देखी थी. HDFC Bank was there in the anchor book. So, and then there were a few good names as well. But like nothing which stood out for me. Maybe Rohit, do you want to go? Do you have any pointers on this?
Not a pointer, but just a question to Yash. So you mentioned that the growth could be 100% next year. Just one thing in the RSV itself, I remember reading that they had mentioned, very specifically mentioned that they expect to do 240 crore revenue in FY25 and 300 crore revenue in FY26. That is much more than, much less than 100%. So is this something that was guided in a call somewhere?
Yeah.
Like,
So
what is Yash?
they had a IPO call. These guidance were given in that call as well. Also, he mentioned that currently they are third in the world and they are trying to move into top 2 positions in the world. So उसी के लिए तो they are expanding this much. And he also guided कि अगर दिसंबर में लाइव होता है तो next 12 months में he will be sitting at optimum utilizations, current capacity का भी.
Got it. And so that is where you feel that 100% is possible next year, which means you think they can do 400 CR plus in FY26.
Yes.
Got
Also,
it.
one more interesting point which I missed was, so recently there is this IPO, Satlokar. So if I talk about a pre-IPO done in this Freshara company, so I saw a common name which was Arpana Sameer Thakkar. So this person is holding close to 5% in Basilic, 4.7% in AVP Infracon. So looks like he's a good investor क्योंकि अच्छे price points पे deals पकड़े हुए हैं उन्होंने.
So does he have some allocation in Freshara as well?
He is a pre-IPO investor in Freshara.
Got it.
Strong Chennai angle looks like.
Yeah.
All Chennai-based companies.
All Chennai-based companies. AVP, Basilic, Satlokar, now Freshara. But yeah, this is what our review of Freshara was. Tanmay, Yash, Rohit, do you guys have anything, or we can move on to the one last company before we talk a bit about Hyundai?
I think we can move on.
Got it. So with that, just want to highlight, if you have joined in between, आप YouTube चैनल ऊपर पिंड है, उसको जाके ज्वाइन कर सकते हो. वहां पे मैं कल ये स्पेस डाल दूंगा, तो आप अपने लेजर पे भी इन कंपनीज का रिव्यू सुन सकते हो while you are applying. Definitely follow and subscribe to the YouTube channel. But with that, we'll move on. We'll talk about one last company, which is Premium Plast. Premium Plast करके कंपनी आ रही है. Not a lot to talk about this company. This should be rather quick. इसका जो आईपीओ है अराउंड 26 करोड़ का कंपनी आईपीओ ला रही है. खंडवाला सिक्योरिटीज एलएम है. जो चीज मुझे सबसे ज्यादा ऑड लगी कि इसमें क्यूआईबी जो है वो सिर्फ 10% ही है. 2.6 सीआर का ही एलोकेशन है क्यूआईबी के पास. रिटेल पोर्शन जो है वो 45% है. एचएनआई पोर्शन जो है वो 45% है. So QIB portion, so on paper it is a book build, but then how much of it is book build is a question, क्योंकि इसमें एंकर नहीं है, कोई एंकर नहीं है, एंड सिर्फ QIB एलोकेशन दिया हुआ है थोड़ा सा. जस्ट टू हाईलाइट, खंडवाला का इससे पहले भी एक इशू आया था बाइको करके, इससे पुराना जो इशू था उसमें भी सेम स्टोरी थी कि QIB को इतना छोटा पोर्शन दिखाया हुआ था कि वो अचानक से 20x दिखने लगता है जैसे ही कोई छोटा मोटा बिट डाल देता है. तो इसमें भी सिमिलर है, एंड यू आर सीइंग हाउ that company is doing Byco. But having said that, now I'll go to the real review. The company is not bad in any way. The company is a very decent company. Premium Plast, अगर अब मैं कंपनी की बात करूं, तो जो कंपनी है ना वो ऑटोमोटिव पार्ट्स वगैरह बनाती है. प्लास्टिक के पार्ट्स जो होते हैं कार वगैरह, कमर्शियल व्हीकल्स में जो लगते हैं, इंटीरियर और एक्सटीरियर उनमें मैन्युफैक्चर करती है, और इंडस्ट्रियल में जो प्लास्टिक पार्ट्स लगती हैं वो बनाती है. कंपनी वसई और पीतमपुरा इंदौर बेस्ड है. और एक टीयर 1 सप्लायर है टू ओईएम्स, जो ओईएम्स होते हैं कार्स के, उनको मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करती है और उनको सप्लाई करती है वो पार्ट्स। तो जैसे आप पार्ट्स में क्या क्या होता है, जैसे मैं ऑटोमेटिव पार्ट्स में बताऊं तो उसमें एक्सटीरियर पार्ट जो आते हैं, जैसे कि ग्रिल्स हो गई, बम्पर हो गए, डोर पैनल हो गए, जो भी प्लास्टिक की चीज लगती है गाड़ी में वो मैन्युफैक्चर करती है। उसके बाद इंटीरियर पार्ट में क्या क्या करती है, तो जैसे इंटीरियर पार्ट में डैशबोर्ड होते हैं, ग्लव बॉक्स होते हैं, वेंट्स होते हैं, वो सब बनाती है। स्टीयरिंग व्हील वगैरह बनाती है कंपनी। सो ऑलमोस्ट ऑल ऑटोमोटिव पार्ट्स कंपनी मेक्स। उसके अलावा थोड़ा बहुत रेवेन्यू जो आता है वो इंडस्ट्रियल प्लास्टिक, जैसे मैंने बनाया वो पार्ट्स, वो सब भी बनाती है, जो कवर्स केसेस वगैरह होते हैं एलिवेटर स्विचेस के, उन सब के। और उसके अलावा मोल्डेड इंडस्ट्रियल पैकेजिंग भी बनाती है वो, जैसे बॉक्स होते हैं जो ईयरपॉड्स वगैरह जहां हम पैक करते हैं उनके लिए, वो सब भी बनाती है। तो कंपनी का बट जो मोस्ट ऑफ द रेवेन्यू 84% रेवेन्यू जो है वो ऑटोमोटिव प्लास्टिक कंपोनेंट से आता है। 9% जो है वो इंडस्ट्रियल प्लास्टिक से आता है, 7% जो है मोल्डेड इंडस्ट्रियल पैकेजिंग से आता है। सो फॉर ऑल प्रैक्टिकल पर्पसेस थिंक ऑफ इट एज अ कंपनी विच मैन्युफैक्चर्स प्लास्टिक पार्ट्स फॉर ओईएम्स। अब इसमें सबसे इंटरेस्टिंग बात यह है कि इनका जो 80% रेवेन्यू ऑलरेडी प्लास्टिक पार्ट्स, ये ऑटोमोटिव पार्ट्स से आता है, उसमें से भी 84% ऑफ ऑल रेवेन्यू कम्स फ्रॉम वोल्वो आइशर। वोल्वो आइशर करके एक सिंगल क्लाइंट है। सो बेसिकली थिंक ऑफ इट एज अ आउटसोर्स्ड कंपनी विच मैन्युफैक्चर्स ऑल ऑटोमोटिव पार्ट्स फॉर वोल्वो आइशर कमर्शियल व्हीकल्स। सो वोल्वो और आइशर का एक जॉइंट एग्रीमेंट, इसके अंडर वो कमर्शियल व्हीकल बनाते हैं और ऑलमोस्ट ऑल द रेवेन्यू फॉर द कंपनी कम्स फ्रॉम इट। वहीं से ही मोस्ट ऑफ द रेवेन्यू आता है। लाइक लास्ट ईयर कंपनी ने 46 सीआर किया था, 45.8 सीआर, जिसमें से अराउंड 39 सीआर वोल्वो आइशर से था। सो देयर इज अ ह्यूज कंसंट्रेशन रिस्क ऑन द कंपनी की। अगर बाय चांस वो एग्रीमेंट क्लोज हो गया या फिर वो कंपनी ने वो उस ओईएम ने, वोल्वो आइशर ने इनसे पार्ट लेना बंद कर दिया, तो कंपनी का क्या होगा? That's something which is a huge negative on the company because it's not diversified enough, I feel. But having said that, it's a very old company, like legacy company, been doing very well और काफी अच्छे से काम भी है। सो जैसे इनका वसई वाला जो प्लांट है वो अराउंड 80% कैपेसिटी यूटिलाइज्ड है। पीतमपुरा वाला प्लांट 74% कैपेसिटी यूटिलाइज्ड है। सॉरी, वसई, हाँ, 70। पीतमपुरा में इनके दो प्लांट है, एक में 74% कैपेसिटी यूज है, एक में 69% कैपेसिटी यूज है। अगर मैं बैलेंस शीट बात करूं तो बैलेंस शीट में कोई इशू नहीं दिखा मेरे को। बैलेंस शीट वाज क्लीन, देयर वाज नो इशू विद रिस्पेक्ट टू ट्रेड रिसीवेबल एक्सेट्रा इंक्रीजिंग एनी फनी बिजनेस हैपनिंग एज सच। और जो कंपनी ने अपने रीजंस, ऑब्जेक्ट्स फॉर द इशू हैं, वो भी काफी अच्छे से समझाए हुए हैं कि उनको अपनी कैपेसिटी इंक्रीज करनी है। उसके लिए अराउंड 16 करोड़ चाहिए 26 करोड़ में से, विच मेड सेंस क्योंकि उनकी कैपेसिटी अराउंड 80% पे ऑपरेट हो रही है आज के दिन में। मशीनरी वगैरह खरीदनी है। उसके अलावा उनको 1 करोड़ रुपए में सोलर पावर प्लांट भी लगवाना है, जिससे उनका यूटिलिटीज, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी वगैरह का खर्चा कम हो जाएगा। इट्स गुड कि उनने वो अमाउंट ऐसा, क्योंकि मैंने ऐसी भी कंपनियां देखी जो पूरा खर्चा लिख देती है, हमें प्लांट में बनाना है, सोलर पावर प्लांट में बनाना है। एक स्टील वाली कंपनी आई थी, कामधेनु वगैरह कुछ तो नाम था उसका, कामधेनु सरिया के लिए वो कुछ करती थी, फ्रॉम वाटर, आदित्य स्टील, वो पूरा ही सोलर प्लांट बनाना है। इनने 1 करोड़ का इनको सोलर प्लांट लगाना है। उसके अलावा 2 करोड़ का डेप्थ इनको कम करना है पर से। सो इवन इफ यू काउंट ऑल ऑफ दोस इश्यूज, जैसा मैंने बताया कि जो जिसके लिए पैसा उठा रहे हैं, और कंपनी की जो यूनिट्स हैं, वसई वाली कंपनी के पास खुद से होल्ड है प्रॉपर्टी, और उसके अलावा जो पीतमपुरा वाली 2 यूनिट्स हैं वो कंपनी की 99 ईयर लीज पीरियड पे है। सो दैट इज ऑल्सो गुड। अब अगर मैं कंपनी का रेवेन्यू की बात करूं, यहाँ पे थोड़े से क्वेश्चन है मेरे को। कंपनी जो है वो उसने 31 करोड़ का रेवेन्यू किया था इन FY22, जो इंक्रीज होकर 44 सीआर हो गया इन FY23। बट और तब कंपनी का जो बॉटम लाइन था, पैट था, वो 1.5 करोड़ था, 1 करोड़ 60 लाख, which went up to 46 CR in FY24, and PAT has increased suddenly to 4.8 CR. So there's a 3x jump in PAT, which, because end of the day it is a highly competitive segment. OEMs don't give you the margin to increase PAT at that level, कि आपका PAT अचानक से 10% हो गया from like 3%. So again that kind of brings some questions. But अगर आप देखोगे तो margin is also like, टॉप लाइन इज ऑल्सो रिलेटिवली कंस्ट्रेन। टॉप लाइन भी 44 सीआर उन्होंने लास्ट ईयर किया था, 46 सीआर लास्ट ईयर किया था। सो टॉप लाइन में भी बहुत ज्यादा ग्रोथ की मार्जिन नहीं है until they do capex. They will do capex, but it will take some time in order for the capex to hit. I couldn't find कि capex कितने टाइम में आएगा। So again that's a question which we'll have to see. But अब अगर मैं पैट मान लूं कि वो जो उन्होंने पैट बोला है 4 point whatever CR, which 4.78 CR, that is sustainable, then even at that PE, the company is coming at a PE of 19.6. So it doesn't seem like the company is leaving a lot on the table क्योंकि OEM component manufacture के लिए outsource manufacturing करने वाले को लगभग उतना ही PE मिलना चाहिए मेरे हिसाब से. So on like इनका फर्स्ट क्वार्टर में जो रेवेन्यू वो भी कंपैरेटिवली काफी बढ़ गया है. व्हेन आई वाज सीइंग फर्स्ट क्वार्टर में इन्हें 12 सीआर टॉप लाइन पे 1.4 सीआर बॉटम लाइन बना लिया है. सो 12 सीआर टॉप लाइन को आप एनुअलाइज करोगे तो लगभग 48 सीआर कंपनी बना लेगी. लेकिन अगर आप पैट को एनुअलाइज करने जाओगे तो वो 6 करोड़ हो जाएगा कंपैरेटिवली. सो अगेन मार्जिन्स हैव इंक्रीज वे टू सडनली फॉर माई लाइकिंग, विच आई फील इज अ बिग प्रॉब्लम पर से विद द कंपनी. जैसे कि आप देखोगे कि मार्जिन जो है कंपनी की वो लगभग 2.5% थी FY22 में, जो 3.5% हो गई FY23 में, फिर 10.5% हो गई FY24 में और 11.5% हो गई FY25 के फर्स्ट क्वार्टर में. सो अगेन इट्स ऑलवेज अ चैलेंज कि मार्जिन प्री आईपीओ अचानक से इतनी ज्यादा कैसे बढ़ जाती है, स्पेशली फॉर दिस बिजनेस जहां पे टॉप लाइन इतनी बड़ी नहीं है. सो देयर इज नो इकोनॉमीज ऑफ स्केल विच आर comparatively coming into play. I would I would kind of say that there is a pre-IPO interview available with the promoter, but I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet. So maybe उनने ये चीज वहां पे cover की हो and there's a valid reason to it. But I will listen to it basis that I'll take a call. But at least अगर ये 20 PE पे कंपनी आ रही है, doesn't seem like leaving a lot on the table, especially considering कि कैपेक्स जो होगा उसका अफेक्ट आने में काफी देर हो जाएगी. और कंपनी जो अपने जो कंपैरेबल दिखाए हैं, वेरोक इंजीनियरिंग और ऊनो मिंडा इनने कंपैरेबल दिखाए, वो काफी बड़ी कंपनी है. आई डोंट थिंक दे आर राइट कंपैरेबल्स. वेरोक इज एट 16, मिंडा इज एट 61 if I'm not wrong, but again those are not right comparables. This is a very small company. This is like एक niche कमर्शियल व्हीकल OEM के लिए ये प्लास्टिक के पार्ट्स बनाती है. दैट्स हाउ आई विल डिफाइन द बिजनेस. इट्स अ गुड रनिंग बिजनेस. इट विल डू वेल इन द लॉन्ग टर्म, बट लेट द कैपेसिटी कम. आई डोंट सी listing booms on it or any crazy GMPs on this business, at least from my end. One last thing to highlight, जो इसका LM है वो खांडवाला सिक्योरिटीज है और इससे पहले उनकी हिस्ट्री बिल्कुल भी अच्छी नहीं है. जस्ट वांट टू हाईलाइट कि बाइको में वो थे, बाइको करके, बाइको ग्रीन विच इज लाइक 45% डाउन. फीनिक्स एक ग्लोबल वाली जो कंपनी आई थी उसी के साथ जो 45% डाउन है, उसके भी वो LM थे. QVC एक्सपोर्ट्स उससे पहले ये LM थे जो कि 90% ऊपर खुली थी, वो गिर के वापस 30% डाउन है अपने IPO प्राइस से भी. सो अराउंड 60% डाउन है फ्रॉम द लिस्टिंग प्राइस. उसके भी LM ये थे. सो द कंपनी, the LM doesn't have a great history per se, but yeah, that is what my review of Premium Plast was. Premium Plast की भी अब हमने बात की है. Unless anyone has anything to add, or we can kind of take the last few things and then wrap up this issue. I'm just seeing if there are any questions. If there are none, Rohit, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So maybe with that, we have covered the 4 IPOs that we were to review. We will just talk a bit about Hyundai, what has been happening on Hyundai. I just want to know from everyone who all have applied to Hyundai and have some allocation. It was so difficult that day that, like, I don't think a lot of people applied in Hyundai, so it will be very interesting to see. But maybe with that, do you want to cover what happened that day? Because we were expecting some things, and I understand you also trimmed down your choice of going full force or not in Hyundai. I also trimmed down my application size as well. So, do you want to talk about what you felt went wrong with the company and any possible future things which you feel for Hyundai? In the meanwhile, everyone I have posted in comments question that did you apply in Hyundai end of the day or not? So if you could answer that, that would be very helpful for us just to get a rough idea. I have also put it in the chat, shared comments as well. Okay.
Yeah, it was an interesting day. I think all of us expected QIB to be probably 20x, 25x at least. And the QIB numbers started very strongly. I think by 145 or so, it was at 6x. But somehow at 330, it was still at, not even 7x. So a very strange movement. I personally had in mind that I was expecting all of these categories to oversubscribe. I was not expecting BHNI to be like less than half X, same for SHNI and stuff. So I was looking for allotment in the 15 to 20 lakh range, which is what I'm finally going to get also through a combination of I had applied BHNI, SHNI. So I would say I'm getting the allocation that I expected, but having applied far lesser. Just very strange sort of QIB movement. I think you also had put out a tweet explaining who finally applied in the QIB side. The good thing is it is largely, what is historically called strong hands. SEBI had provided that data where they showed how banks were the first people to sell. Mutual funds, insurance companies are the ones who hold the longest. They don't sell in the first day, first 2 days. It all depends now on what allocation they expected based on the QIB subscription, what they applied for, what they got. Is that more than what they wanted? Is it too much as a percentage of their, funds, as a percentage of that mutual fund holding itself? I even noticed that some of the large anchors that are there, like for example, New World Fund, which I think was one of the largest anchors, they themselves have doubled their position now from anchor to, post this QIB allotment. I think almost 800 crore became 1600 crore. So again, you would imagine that this is a sign that the people who have got it on listing should not sell, which means the float that will be available should be a lot lesser. We've also seen a very funny sort of GMP move. I don't think we've ever seen such a move. Started at 1,000, but obviously that was purely speculative. I think there were hardly any traded volumes. Most of the trading volumes, I think, happened in this 300 to 500 range. But after that, it obviously came down to negative. And then suddenly from negative, it's gone back up to about 100 rupees. So it's been a very, very strange sort of move. I still feel the business can give and should give a pop. I mean, that was the reason for applying. It is at a discount to its peers. I think a lot of the negativity on the day I personally feel was because that was the day when the Bajaj Auto commentary came, where they mentioned in the con call that this festive demand looked weaker than expected for the first couple of weeks. They did, I think, also mention that they expected to cover it up over the course of the rest of the festive season. But, market doesn't care about all that. They heard what they heard. They took it at a knee jerk, you can say, and just destroyed that stock and destroyed all auto stocks as collateral. The good thing is on Friday, the auto pack recovered. So maybe that has helped improve the sentiment overall for Hyundai also. I am in a way almost expecting the opposite, which is the sign of this premium going up might be a sign that the auto sector might actually do well tomorrow. Will be interesting to track that. But I think over the next 2 days, tomorrow and of course on Tuesday, if the auto segment can hold up, something a Maruti can sort of rebound, I think that should be a very good sign for where Hyundai will list. I think the way GMP is going up, I do feel that initial theory of anywhere from 5 to 15% sort of premium hopefully will hold and it will list well, especially given that good, strong funds are holding this company now. And rest we'll see. It'll be very interesting. Biggest IPO, seeing how it lists. I hope that a positive listing will change that negative sentiment that a big IPO is a sign of a top and it's always going to fail and going to lose investors' money. It's good for all of us, good for the market if, it actually does list well and sort of sustains post-listing.
Perfect. You covered almost everything which I had to say, Rohit. But मैंने वो thread डाला हुआ है जिसमें essentially we have kind of covered कि किन के पास QIB allocation है. This is just indicative. I just want to highlight that this doesn't mean I'm positive on the issue or I'm negative on the issue. At this moment of time, I'm slightly neutral towards the issue. Let's see how it lists. Again, it depends on a lot of factors. Like you will see HDFC and LIC, HDFC Mutual Fund, not the HDFC Bank, HDFC Mutual Fund. So basically क्या होता है कि म्यूचुअल फंड्स भी QIB के लिए अप्लाई करते हैं और बैंक्स भी करते हैं. यूजुअली बैंक्स आर अ लॉट मोर सेफर, सो दे सेल एवरीथिंग ऑन day one and go back home. That at least that's what the study says, that 80% of all allocation given to banks sell on day one. So because of which, at least this time, because they tend to do plain safe IPOs, they haven't applied anything. Only Yes Bank का नाम था उसमें. So they don't have any holding. Retail and HNI don't have a lot of holding. I know a lot of people who have applied two applications, one in HNI, one in retail, and cancelled the two application. तो वो जो 50% दिख रहा है वो 50% भी नहीं है एक्चुअली जो HNI और रिटेल के पास है. सिमिलरली रिटेल में भी कई सारे लोग हैं ऐसे जिनने लोअर प्राइस बैंड पे अप्लाई किया है जस्ट टू सी कि मिलता है कि नहीं. सो वो भी कैंसिल होंगी एप्लीकेशंस, वो भी एप्लीकेशंस कैंसिल हुई हैं. So इसका basis of allotment जब आएगा, so it will be actually very interesting to see how much of the issue is actually with retail and HNI, which is what probably you think is the liquidity which needs to be managed on day one. But how much will it go back up? Again, it will depend on how much allocation did QIBs want. Like I have a speculation कि वो जो LIC वाली बिड है वो अराउंड 1 बजे आई थी जब वो 0.91 से 2x हो गया था, क्योंकि वो साइज उतनी मैच हो रही है. तो जब उन्होंने डाला था तब तो उन्हें शायद से आइडिया होगा कि ये तो 6x ही जाएगा और इतना ज्यादा एलोकेशन मिल जाएगा. So again, it would be interesting to see how do they come on selling, how much they want, how much they didn't want. What I am again doing is just I have some allotment. I just applied for retail lots. I'm going to hold it and see how it lists. Basis that I'll take a decision. But yeah, with that we have kind of covered the 4 companies that we were to talk about today. जस्ट टू हाईलाइट, हमने आज 4 कंपनियों की बात की. हमने दीपक बिल्डर्स की बात की और उसके बाद हमने 3 एसएमईज की आज बात की. फ्रेश एरा जो कि कल क्लोज हो रहा है, डिसेंट इशू, वही डिसेंट इशू. एंड देन उसके बाद हमने प्रीमियम प्लास्ट की बात की. maybe can do good in the long term but doesn't seem a lot on the table on short term. And then Danish Power की भी बात की, which is again good issue. उसके बाद हम कल एक और स्पेस करेंगे जिसपे हम वारी एनर्जीज की बात करेंगे, विच इज समथिंग विच एवरीवनस वेटिंग फॉर. उसके अलावा 3 एसएमईज हैं, उनकी भी बात नहीं, सॉरी, वारी एनर्जीज और गोदावरी बायो रिफाइनरीज, दो मेन बोर्ड आईपीओ हैं. गोदावरी बायो रिफाइनरी भी जो आईपीओ है वो कंपैरेटिवली छोटी साइज का आईपीओ है, 550 करोड़ का आईपीओ है. बट उसके अलावा 2 एसएमई भी हैं, यूनाइटेड हीट ट्रांसफर एंड ओबीएससी परफेक्शन, उनकी भी बात करेंगे. सो शुड बी फन टुमारो. Do definitely join in tomorrow as well. And then we will see you everyone. Have a great day ahead. Bye.
Thank you.